Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabrina Kofer, and on behalf of Choice and ACRL, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Meeting Faculty Demand Through Film Catalog Diversity, which is sponsored by Kanopy. This session is one in a series of sponsored webinars from Choice and ACRL that addresses new ideas and developments of interest to the academic library community. Now I'll just put some links in the chat for where you can register for upcoming Choice ACRL webinars or watch previous recordings. Before we get started, I'd like to point out just a few features of the webinar software. All of the attendees who join the presentation are automatically muted and your cameras are off, so don't worry about generating any noise or feedback. We've got that taken care of for you. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. To adjust the size of the slides or video, you can use the divider in the middle of the screen to slide the sizes to your liking. We are using the Q&A feature today. Please use it to ask questions of our speakers. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation, so please do type your questions and comments into the Q&A module as they occur to you. You can also use the upvote feature to highlight questions you like or would like to be addressed. Also, there is closed captioning available for today's session. To toggle the automated captions on or off, please use the CC button on the bottom right corner of your screen. Last, please note that we are recording today's program, and everyone who registered should receive a follow-up email with a link to the archive version. And now I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. Wendy Chamberlain is Senior Manager of Content Programming at Kanopy, and Josh Garcia is Marketing Manager at Kanopy. And with that, we are ready to get started, so I will hand it over to Josh.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us wherever you are calling in from. Just to quickly show the agenda, right now we're into the introduction and housekeeping items. We just covered that there. We're going to move into a very quick background about who Kanopy is. And then we're going to really get into the meat of the matter, the challenges around streaming video, that a lot of librarians face when it comes to the academic content that they have. So we'll be covering that as a big part of our message. And then lastly, we're going to cover some Q&As that you can definitely submit during the presentation. We're going to probably answer those in this section, but if there's something that's really urgent, we may get to that during the presentation. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So who is Kanopy? We're a streaming video platform and supplier founded in 2008. We started supplying an exclusively streaming video catalog around 10 years ago in 2013. We hand curate and evaluate a catalog of over 30,000 quality, important films that are refreshed and edited monthly. We do have the most up-to-date catalog to meet faculty and student demand. We maintain a solid relationship with over 1,100 distribution partners that you can see below, including the Criterion Collection, BBC, HBO, Neon, and A24, just to name a few. Our content team curates, quality checks, and releases over 125 titles every week. In fact, last month we released almost 600 total titles, including the 2023 Academy Award Best Picture winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once, to our US audience. And with Michelle Yeoh and Jamie Lee Curtis with their hot dog fingers, it was definitely one of my favorite movies I've seen recently. It's going to stay forever burned in my memory. I love that movie. And our catalog is exclusive in regards to our coverage in North America. Over 75% of the films we carry can only be found on Kanopy in the educational space. And moving forward, there's a slight little lag there, but so Kanopy's platform is really preferred by so many in the academic market. In fact, librarians, faculty, and students are most satisfied with Kanopy's user experience. We derive this information from a great Ithaca S&R report called Streaming Media Licensing and Purchasing Practices at Academic Libraries. It was published in June 2022. This really was a fantastic look into the preferences and reasoning for why and how librarians determine licensing streaming video, and I recommend it to others to review the fantastic work that they do. it really was eye-opening because we learned a lot ourselves in terms of the actual space that we do our business in. Our UX, our user experience, is often compared to other mainstream platforms. I'm not going to name them here, but I'm sure you know which ones we might be talking about. But getting back to the experience, 90% of librarians liked 90% of librarians approved of or were satisfied with Kanopy's audio and video quality versus 61% of the next top contender or the next top choice. And then in terms of student ease of use, 82% of students preferred Kanopy over the next best competitor, which got a 50% coverage. And then lastly, for faculty ease of use, it was determined that 76% approved of Kanopy or were satisfied with Kanopy versus the 48% for the next best competitor. So we're really pleased with those figures. We worked very hard on our product and our platform, and it shows that we do have a lot of support and trust in the community because of that. Now, moving forward, so last month in our town hall, we have town halls in the spring and in fall, the autumn in North America or the Northern Hemisphere. So for fall, last month, we surveyed 500 librarians and we asked them a question. What are your main challenges around streaming video other than price? And so we gave them a few options. Finding available content was one option. Licensing models that are currently available was another option. Facilitating faculty requests was one. Faculty awareness was another, and then renewal management. I'm going to go over those in a little bit more of a detail, and that's really what we're deriving, how we're deriving our current talk right now, because we want to meet those selections head first and address each one of those. So for finding available content, we realized, and I'm deriving these points from actual chat comments that were actually made by current or by fellow librarians. In terms of finding available content, a lot of times librarians felt like they couldn't fulfill all the requests that faculty asked of them. And so I think that that's a pretty universal concern that is shared by a lot of people. On top of that, licensing models currently available. There was a concern from librarians that not all titles were available in the licensing types that they would like. Fair enough. We can't supply everything in every type of license, but we'll go over that a little bit more later on in the presentation, how we can meet that. And then also facilitating faculty requests. There was a major concern in terms of keeping up with the pace to which faculty do request films, especially at specific times of the semester, like the beginning of the semester or during finals week. So there were a lot of concerns around how librarians can facilitate faculty requests. Then, of course, lastly, there was faculty awareness. Or not lastly, but faculty awareness was another item that we discovered was a major indicator there for concern. Just the fact that faculty wasn't even aware that specific types of titles existed, and so that probably fed into that first concern of finding available content. And then there was always renewal management, which is something that we're not going to get into so much on this talk, but we did see that as a major concern. That is something that we want to address later on. But it was a really eye-opening look into what the current concerns were in 2023. And so I've ordered them on the right-hand side here based off of popularity. So, the first one is, finding available content. That was the most popular, followed by faculty awareness, facilitating faculty requests, and then licensing models currently available. So we're focusing on these 4 challenges. And to cover the first 2, I'm going to give the presentation over to Wendy, who's going to talk about those first 2. So Wendy, it's all yours.
Thank you, Josh. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to be here and to get to talk about all the great things that Kanopy does. And I certainly hope that you find it useful. And I'd really appreciate if you do have any comments or questions to go ahead and put those in the Q&A. So I love to hear from our many customers and our many prospective customers about what they think and what their questions are, what their concerns are. So please use that Q&A feature. I would love to answer some of your questions. And just to remind you of who I am, my name is Wendy Chamberlain, and I'm the Senior Manager of Content Programming. So that means that I do all things content. I am very involved with the titles that we bring on and determining which titles I think are going to connect most with our audience and making sure that those titles get the proper placement so that they can connect with our audience. So it's very important for me that our films do find the audience that is best for them. So that's part of the reason why I'm excited to be here today, because I think this presentation really addresses that well. So to start with, we, as Josh mentioned, we did uncover 4 streaming video challenges according to academic librarians. So I will be talking about the first 2, finding available content and faculty awareness. So you can see here, we're starting with finding available content. And I'll just read the quote we have on the slide from a librarian. "We can't find all the titles that professors want in a streaming format. It's a frustration, but why? Why is this that they can't find them?" Well, it's often because professors are looking for specific titles. And sometimes those specific titles can't be found anywhere in any format. But maybe they're not on DVD or not on VHS, or maybe they're only on DVD or only on VHS, and that's not the format that you're looking for. And maybe they're also not available on streaming. But what we hear most often is that they're not available to stream specifically with educational rights. So, for example, they may belong to a major streaming service like Hulu or like Netflix. And I want to give you some good news. Kanopy can help with all of the above. So I'm going to give you some examples. I'm sorry to say that Kanopy does not have any of these 5 popular Netflix original documentaries that you're looking at here on the right. These are very popular titles. You may recognize some of them. They certainly all have educational value. So what would happen if a professor requests one of these titles for assigned viewing for a class? Well, Kanopy can give you some options. So, good news. Kanopy has thousands of videos across a multitude of subject areas. So there's a high likelihood that there's a title that matches the content and message that the professor is looking for. So I showed you some examples on the last screen, and here are the answers. No, we don't have these titles, but we do have titles that would be a really good substitute. And that's one thing that Kanopy can do for you. So let's briefly go over each of these so that you can see what I'm talking about. The first one, Crip Camp. It's a Netflix original from 2020. It premiered at Sundance, where it won the Audience Award. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. It got lots of attention. But what is it about? Although its narrative and audience hook is the archival footage from a 1970s summer camp for disabled teenagers, this doc really is about the dawn of the disability rights movement in the United States and the creation of the American with Disabilities Act. So I went on Kanopy to find something that was similar. And very quickly, I found this other film, Defiant Lives. It's from 2017, so 3 years older. It was not at Sundance and it was not nominated for an Oscar, but it is on the rise of disability rights movement across 3 different countries. So it has a bit of a broader perspective. It looks at the US, at UK, and at Australia. And just looking online to see what kind of reviews it had gotten, I found one from Educational Media Reviews Online, which specializes in reviewing documentaries for universities specifically. And they call it an excellent look at the civil rights of physically disabled people, and valuable both as an historical record of the disability rights movement and an exploration of the importance of supporting marginalized people without abridging their freedoms. So I think that this would make an excellent substitute. It may not have the cachet that Crip Camp has, or the buzz, may not have gotten the attention, but from an academic perspective, it likely covers a lot of the same topics, and we have it on Kanopy. Next, My Octopus Teacher. You may have heard of this one. It was very popular, from 2020, another Netflix original. It actually won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Film. It's a touching account of humans' relationship with wild animals. It speaks to zoology and marine biology. Just a great movie, very entertaining, very engaging. Well, I decided to take a look. What would we have that might be a good substitute? And then I found on Kanopy, very quickly I might add, Octopus Making Contact. So this one is from 2019, so it's actually made 1 year earlier. It's from PBS, and it's about Dr. David Scheel. He's a professor of marine biology at Alaska Pacific University in Anchorage. He raises an octopus in a tank in his home, and Scheel goes on to link his discoveries to octopus findings from all over the world, and it provides extraordinary intelligence, or provides proof of the extraordinary intelligence of these incredible creatures. Fire in Paradise, 2019, premiered at the Telluride Film Festival, another Netflix documentary. We have title with the same name, Fire in Paradise. This one's from PBS. It's also from 2019. It's Emmy nominated. It goes into what led to the catastrophic human toll and the future of wildfires in California. Knock Down the House, another Netflix original from 2019, premiered at Sundance, about the 2019 congressional campaign of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It shows behind-the-scenes footage of a pivotal election. It follows insurgent candidates as they compete against incumbents. And it's about mostly women in politics today. Well, we also have The Squad from 2020. It is too about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and three other women of color that were elected to the 2018 United States House of Representatives, and covers a lot of the same topics. And then finally, 13th from 2016, another Netflix documentary directed by Ava DuVernay, nominated for Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. This was titled after the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery and contends that slavery has been perpetuated through criminalizing behavior and forcing Black people to work for the state under convict leasing. So I immediately thought of a very popular documentary that we already have. It's called Slavery by Another Name. It's a great documentary. It's actually based on a New York Times bestselling book of the same name. That book won a Pulitzer Prize. The documentary is narrated by Lawrence Fishburne. It premiered at Sundance, and it too recounts the many ways in which American slavery persisted as a practice many decades after its supposed abolition. So these are 5 of the most popular educational documentaries on Netflix, and they would each be a good fit for classroom use. But I was quickly able to find documentaries on Kanopy that covered the same subject matter from notable distributors like PBS, also award-winning titles, also festival favorites. So as far as meeting faculty where they are and coming up with solutions, Kanopy can definitely do that just with the collection that we already have. So that's one solution, but I said that we had multiple solutions for you. So I'm going to talk about this next one. Kanopy is actually already working with 2 major streaming services for their educational rights. HBO, all HBO documentary films are available on Kanopy for streaming. So we have a deal with HBO documentary films specifically, and we can bring those films on within weeks of their broadcast dates on HBO. You can see here some of the highlights, but we have, actually should have pulled the number, but let me guess, 40, 50 HBO documentaries already on the service. So that's one. And then we just entered into a partnership with Hulu, and we're going to be working with them on a case-by-case basis. We've brought this movie that you see on the left, Changing the Game, onto Kanopy. And so that's the first one, but we're hoping that with Hulu, again, on a case-by-case basis, as they have documentaries that are especially fitting for an academic audience, that we'll be able to bring more and more Hulu documentaries. So we are working hard to source these movies and bring them on to Kanopy. So before we have them, we can definitely get you substitute movies, but our long-term hope is that we can eventually get a lot of these movies on Kanopy themselves. So how do you find all these great documentaries on Kanopy? Well, anyone can do it, not just me. We have our website highly organized by subject area, and you can see them here. This is, if you go to our admin experience, getting to our admin experience, it means that you do have to have a customer account. So this would be a librarian account, not an account that a professor or a student would have. They would have a different user experience, not drastically different, but a little bit different. They wouldn't, for example, have access to this browse menu and browse screen. But if you click on browse next to the search box at the top, you would get to this screen, which tells you exactly how our website is organized. So that would be the number one place to start, is on this browse menu. And the advantage of starting with the admin account is that you can see Kanopy's full catalog, not just what you currently have available to end users. All right, next I'm going to give you a brief overview of how you might find a title similar to the one that I showed you before. So the example I'm using here is disability rights. So we talked about Crip Camp and we talked about Defiant Lives. And this is exactly how I found Defiant Lives. So we have a search box, and in there you can search for subjects and keywords. So in this case, I put in disability rights. You can see it there on the left at the top. And when you put in a subject or keyword into that search box, it will list some options for you, a drop down that shows you some options. And there may be something in that drop down that interests you. And if there is, you can select something from there. But another thing you can do is just hit enter. Once you hit enter, you'll get to the next screen, the one that you see there in the middle that has video search results underneath it. So this, what you see here, is all of the titles that have the words disability rights either in the title or in the description of the film. That's a great way to find titles. Most often, the synopsis or description of the film will contain those keywords and be able to, very quickly show you the movie that you might be looking for. Here, Defiant Lives is actually the first result. But if it doesn't, the next thing you can do is, so right now you can see that we are on videos. So if you look above Defiant Lives, the first thing you see is page 1, and right above page 1, you see videos with a red line or a brown line underneath it. Just to the right of that, It's kind of hard to read, but it says subjects. So actually in the next screenshot to the right, where it says subject search results, I've just clicked on that word, subjects, and now I see the subjects that correspond with my keyword that I put in, disability rights. And it doesn't just produce verbatim results. As you can see, it's giving me many things that have the word rights, that have the word disabilities. So it's a pretty extensive search, and you can then go through there. And then at that point, you will be able to see the matching subjects, which will display all the titles tagged with that subject. So I know that was a quick overview of finding available content, but hopefully that'll get you started. It's not that hard, and I really do feel like anyone can do it. And I do suggest that you go in there and poke around and see what you can find. So finding available content was the most popular answer, but faculty awareness is another challenge that respondents identified. And the problem here is that professors don't start with Kanopy. So coincidentally, solving for this challenge actually solves for the previous challenge too. So you can see from our quotes here, these are librarians saying, our video catalog is extensive. We just wish faculty knew to search it before coming to us. Imagine the time saved if professors browsed our catalog a bit more before coming to us for every video request. So making faculty aware of Kanopy as a resource helps them to start with Kanopy when they're looking for a content need. If they're starting with Kanopy, then the number of times a professor is going to come to you with a Netflix documentary should decrease. So here's our recommendation. Let people know, let the faculty know about all the things that Kanopy offers. When professors start with Kanopy, they can immediately find titles that fulfill their needs and that they have access to. But how do you get the word out to professors and faculty? Well, one way to do it, you can see here, is to use our subject guides. Our subjects guides cover 6 of our most popular subjects. You can see them all here. They are race and class studies, communication and media studies, global studies, career and technical education, film studies, and gender studies. So each guide is from 3 to 4 pages long. Each guide has 7 to 10 subject highlights within the larger subject, and each of those subject highlights showcase about 5 titles each. So that means, one subject guide may have as many as 50 titles included in it, and each of those titles is a link. So these are interactive PDFs. The titles on there are links that go directly to the title. Plus, it does have a link to the main subject page of that subject. So here, communications and media studies would be the main subject, and we would have a link there too, so that you can see all the content. Like I said, we may showcase 50 films here, but there are going to be thousands more if you go straight to the subject itself. So these are PDFs. They're easy to attach to an email, and I would recommend that you send them to faculty, heads of departments and heads of schools, subject librarians, and anyone else who might be interested in learning more about the titles available on Kanopy. I did also want to mention and suggest that you should take advantage of our easy ordering lists. These spreadsheets list all available titles in each of these subject areas. And the spreadsheets include all the relevant information that you need to make a purchasing decision, such as description, supplier, year, age rating, categories, filmmakers, actors, languages, public performance rights, and runtime. And finally, encourage both faculty and student awareness by using our marketing toolkits. We have digital assets for promotion around campus, like you see here. Our digital toolkits, the digital assets are also good for social media, for including in emails, for including in newsletters, and many other places. Wherever you need to add a picture, create some content, we provide that for you straight from that link that we have right there, lib.kanopy.com/toolkits. All our toolkits are there, and like I said, they have digital assets to help promote Kanopy, not just to professors and faculty, but to everyone, including students. And so that's it for me. I'm going to pass it back over to Josh, and Josh is going to be talking to you about challenges 3 and 4. He's going to talk to you about how you'll be able to facilitate all these incoming faculty requests that hopefully you're going to start getting once your faculty knows about Kanopy. So take it over, Josh.
Thanks, Wendy. Yeah, so I'm here to continue with the third challenge that librarians had identified with streaming video, and that's facilitating faculty requests. We frequently hear that meeting faculty requests can really get overwhelming. And so one tool I wanted to make sure that we highlight is a tool that we make available to partners who don't really want to constantly find and purchase one-off licenses. So following Wendy's advice to get ahead of the request curve, and once faculty know to go to Kanopy first, or any, to like search a catalog first, the request for purchase tool, which you can see here, right now I'm showing the faculty or staff's viewpoints, or even the students' viewpoints for how they can search for a title. You can see here they're segmented in what's available currently in your catalog versus what can be requested, and then there's a request form there. It's the perfect tool that really meets that need, because you're no longer having to go off facilitate one-off requests over and over, or you don't have to search for a title yourself. The title's already been searched for you, and the faculty or staff or the student's name is attached to it, so you know how to quickly respond to that. So no more searching titles, and it allows, on top of that, to streamline all the requests so you can approve or deny the requests. What's nice about that also is, I don't have a screenshot here, but in the administrative platform, it does allow you to bulk deny or bulk allow requests as well. So let's say you get, that there are these 5 different faculty members, they're asking for these 5 different videos. It looks all legit, and it's in accordance with your institution's policies. You can go click, and then just hit approve, and that just saves you a whole bunch of time. So this is just one of the tools that we do have for the administrative platform to really help facilitate those types of faculty requests. And I wish we'd had been able to share this live at that event last month, but this is actually hopefully a bit of a benefit that we hope that we can actually meet head on going forward whenever we introduce our catalog. And also, if opening the entire catalog is not something that you always want to do, or facilitating requests this way is not something that you'd like to do either, we do have, this does bring me into the next concern, which was licensing models that were currently available. So we understand not all titles are available in every single type of license. Fair enough, not all titles can be made to be available to be purchased to own in perpetuity, and we do work with our distribution partners to get as many options open as possible. But the good news is that Kanopy has a healthy number of licensing options that work together to create the perfect catalog fit for your institution. So you can combine all these different types of licensing models that we do offer, so you can have your own custom Kanopy program. So I've highlighted the top licensing options here in order of the least overall upkeep for librarians. So the first of which is patron-driven acquisition. So this can come in any type of form, also known as demand-driven acquisition. This is great because you open up a catalog and then people just start watching it, and then you only get charged for titles when they're being used after a certain number of uses. So you do choose which titles to be made available. You can open up the entire catalog for Kanopy. You can open up a portion, and then you can start limiting the amount of access based on your comfort level. Another option is Kanopy subscription. So this is something that we launched about 1.5 years ago, and it's called Kanopy Base. It's basically a set it and forget it model. Like most subscriptions, you basically pay up front for it for the year, and then you're availed up to 13,000 different titles. So that means that once you give that access, you don't have to worry about facilitating any type of request if it's within that catalog. So that helps a lot of librarians, we know, a lot of institutions, because it cuts down a lot of different work types that they have to then do otherwise. And then you can always own with perpetual licenses. So you can own a title outright, which definitely eliminates the need for any further requests for that title. So those are available, and you can talk to a rep about that. And then, of course, if you need to, we always do offer titles in a 1 and a 3 year license. They're always available when you need them, and then our sales team can help you facilitate that if you need that as well. But it's an easy self-serve model, just right there, always ready for it when you need it. And lastly, I'm going to basically ask everybody, if you're interested in learning more before we go into our Q&A, I do want to invite you to talk to an expert. Any one of these wonderful Kanopy account execs will be able to talk with you depending on your region. So if you're in North America, you'll get any of these 4 wonderful people. If you're in EMEA, you'll get Steve. If you're in the APAC region, which is Asia Pacific region, you'll get Julie. If you'd be interested in learning a little bit more about Kanopy, please go ahead and answer yes to the poll question right now. And I think from there, we're going to probably turn it over to Q&A. All right. Great. So let's see. I think I have a few questions that came in. Okay, cool. So the first one is, what if I can't find a substitute title after searching Kanopy or an LMS? So that's a really great question that we can basically talk to. Is that something you'd like to cover, or myself? I can cover.
I would love to start, and
Okay.
Josh, feel free to jump in or add anything if you'd like. But I think this is a really good question because, the fact is that, as part of this presentation, I showed what I was able to do, but I'm the senior manager of content programming. So I think it's reasonable that there may be some fear that this is a skill that only someone who knows our catalog well can find. But number one, I don't think that that's true at all. And hopefully our portion on showing how to search did alleviate some of those fears, because our website is very well organized. And I think, with searching on keywords through the descriptions and the titles, or finding subjects where we have grouped titles together, both of those things would go a really long way to finding the titles. But the other thing I wanted to add is that whoever requested the title, you have likely a professor, they know what they're looking for best. So the solution here may be that the professors themselves need to be empowered to go to Kanopy and look, because they, I think, are going to be more likely to be able to find something that fits, because maybe they're not looking for exactly, or maybe you're not exactly sure what it is they're looking for. So I would encourage you to empower your professors and say, take a look at Kanopy. If you need any help, I'm here, but get them to do the work themselves. What do you think, Josh?
I think that's great. You actually covered that in that last point. What I was going to say, the person requesting the title probably know the most about what they're looking for. So I definitely just I'm doubling down on that part, especially. The second one, it looks like I'm located in Indonesia. Can I still get Kanopy? Yeah, depending on region, we can still fulfill. We can still get you started with Kanopy if you'd like to. If you'd like to talk to somebody about getting a free trial or getting a demo, we can just validate some of that information. But we are covered outside of North America. We have lots of universities and academic institutions and all sorts of great places around the world, including Hong Kong and Philippines and South Africa, and we have a lot of great institutions who enjoy Kanopy. So this is something that the catalog does differ a bit depending on where you're coming from. So something that you might have seen in this presentation may not be specifically available, but there are other things that probably are available that we can't get in North America, just depending on the windowing and the options that were given by our distribution partners. Wendy, do you have anything to say on that?
Nope, I think that's it. Yes, you can get Kanopy.
Awesome. And this third one, a bit confused here. What is the difference between a subject guide and a title list? That was a very specific question. Do you want to cover that, Wendy?
Yeah, so well, as the content expert and the person who's dealing with content all the time, I have to say we've got a ton of different subject guides and title lists and subject lists and title guides, and it can all get very confusing. So I think this is a great question, and you're not wrong to be confused. In this case, what we've talked about in this presentation, the subject guides go into highlighted titles. They have it's a shorter list. In each of the guides, it's maybe only 50 titles, and it's our top titles, just so that we can give you an overview of what that subject covers, give you a taste of what's in there, and it lets you know, is this something that I might be interested in digging into deeper? The title list is everything. There's no highlights in there. It's everything. It's all the titles. It's thousands. And specifically, that's an ordering list, so that it gives you an easy way to pick out which titles you want to order, update the spreadsheet, send it in, and get a lot more awesome titles available to your students and end users.
Great. Yeah, that covers that very well. I don't think I have anything to add to that. So, okay, this is the other one. And this is something I might pass over to you, Wendy, because you might know a little bit more than I do about it. What are the accessibility options for Kanopy, including closed captioning, language options, etc.? I do know a little bit, but I think you might know a little bit more in terms of what we're doing on the content end.
Well, I'll try to answer it, and then Josh, if you have anything else to add that I've missed, we can do it that way. The easy answer is that yes, we have accessibility options such as closed captioning and other language options. Is it on every single thing on Kanopy? No, but as far as closed captioning, I think our latest was in the high 80%. So we're getting close to almost 90% coverage for closed captioning, which I think is really good, but we have more work to do, and we understand that. We continue to work to get more and more captions, and we also take caption requests. So if there's something specific that you need to have captions for, you can request that, and we will get them for that title. Language options, we often get an alternative version of, especially of the more educational titles, where it's dubbed in another language. And for many of our narrative films, we also get subtitles in different languages as well. So those give a bit more language options. Our coverage there, unfortunately, I don't have a number for that. It's going to be less than the closed captioning. But again, we're always working to make everything more accessible all across our website.
Great. Yeah, that covered a little bit more than I think I could have covered it. So thank you, Wendy. Moving forward a bit, just because I want to be a little mindful on time. Can you talk about Kanopy's? Can you talk more about Kanopy's ongoing forthcoming agreements to license films from distributors like Hulu and HBO? How popular are those films on Kanopy?
Yeah, so as far as ongoing, HBO is definitely ongoing. We are getting maybe 1 to 2 titles a month from HBO, and they're often miniseries. So even though it's one title, it will be 2, 3, 4 episodes. And these are the brand new HBO titles. So they broadcast on HBO, and if we can turn them around quickly, we often get them within 2 to 4 weeks of that broadcast date. So, that's also to say, if you see something on HBO Max that's a documentary, that's an HBO documentary, and you're excited about it, and you think that it would be a good fit for, an academic, putting in curriculum, check back on Kanopy within 2 to 4 weeks, and likely you will see it there. Hulu is definitely more of a forthcoming. We have entered into one agreement with them, the title that I showed. So it's, I'll call it a blossoming relationship. As you can imagine, these major streamers, they hold their owned content very tightly. But the vast majority of them are not currently exploiting their educational rights. So that's really where Kanopy can come in. We serve a different market, a different audience than what they're going to. And that's how we're approaching them is you have content that's important for the educational market. And honestly, you could make some money there too. So hopefully as time goes on, we'll be able to do more and more of that. I can't really say what that will look like or make any predictions, but we're slowly working on it.
Great, thank you for covering that. Moving on to the next one, do you have any data? Actually, and there was a last part of the question. How popular are those films on Kanopy that I wanted to address? I think it depends on the school, right? Some schools just eat it up.
Yeah, it depends on the title too. And, with HBO, their documentaries cover a wide range of subjects. And some of them are more academically oriented and some of them are less academically oriented. I won't name names, but what HBO has going for it is whether they are or are not more academically oriented, they're all entertaining, engaging. It's all high quality journalism and reporting, with high production values, with big names attached. So it's great content.
Great. And then the next question I'm going to go into, do you have any data to share on the most popular titles or subject areas for Kanopy? I'm trying to think if that's something we can pull up pretty quickly, but is that something you want to try to cover now, or I can go to the next question and get back to it?
Yes, I can cover this. I mean, data makes me think numbers, and I don't really have specific numbers, but I can definitely tell you what the most popular subject areas are in Kanopy, because this is something that we know, and it does seem to apply globally, although there are some places that lean into one thing more than another. But our major subject areas actually mimic what we did in our subject guides, because we did our subject guides aligned with our major subject areas. So the answer is race and class studies, gender studies, media studies, and film studies. Those are the big 4. I think in our subject guides, we also had career and technical education, and one more. What was the 6th, Josh?
Oh my
Help me out.
goodness. Hold on. What slide I have on my other screen.
I had to put you on the
Basic
spot.
class communications, film studies, do we say communications?
Yep. Well, I said media studies, but I think
It was communication and media studies, global studies.
That's the one.
That was the other one. Yes.
Yes, global studies. So, and I forgot that one because it's not as huge as our big four. Gender, media, race and class, and film are our big four studies that we see a lot of usage and are very popular.
And also one other note I would like to provide is if you are looking for specific data, you can always reach out to your rep, or if you don't have a rep, you can contact us to get one. So that's something that was always available.
And just to because the question here asked for titles too, and I'm realizing that I didn't cite any specific titles, but I would love to, because some of our titles are just overperformers for sure, and evergreen. That we've seen these titles do well for years and years, and these titles are in those four major subject areas. But titles like Killing Us Softly, Misrepresentation, a huge one for us, Race, the Power of an Illusion. For film studies, Rashomon. Tough Guys 2 is for media studies and for gender studies. So these are titles that just fit very well in classroom use in the classes that need to cover this stuff and do it in an engaging way that students can relate to.
Great, thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question. And this one I'm pretty sure is for me, but I know Wendy, you've had a big hand in this development as well. Can you talk more about Kanopy's marketing materials prepared for librarians, faculty to spread awareness? Do all customers of Kanopy have access to these? So yes, absolutely yes. These are all available. And maybe Amy, you can put the URL in the Q&A section, so if you click on it, or maybe the chat, you can put it in the chat area for everybody to click on it. But if you go to our digital marketing resource page, we do have a whole host of available materials for you to download. They're perfect for use. I think Wendy showed a few use cases for digital signage throughout campus. We also have print materials, if you'd like, that you can actually print as well. We have a number. Thank you, Amy. She just put that in the chat. And we do have a number of other types of materials. So we did start traditionally with thematic content, but right now we're moving towards more subject specific and current event specific type content as well, especially when you want to address specific items outside of something that might be thematic. But we do cover some of the major ones like that are pretty relevant curricularly. Coming up next month is going to be Native American Heritage Month, and we have a very good deep catalog and wide catalog for that. We do have a fun one coming up next month called Noirvember, which is basically a take on November, but film noir in November. So if you want to promote film noirs, especially in film study groups or around like with student unions or film clubs, we have a great selection of titles on Kanopy. And then we do have some other ones coming up. I don't want to speak about them too much, but that is part of our regular program in terms of supporting librarians and how they can spread the word. So you can click on those items. Also, new resources will be communicated in monthly newsletters that the sales team actually sends out to customers. So they'll send those out one-on-one. That's part of the white glove service that you do get as a Kanopy customer. But is there something you wanted to add to that, Wendy?
No, that sounds great.
All right, very cool. Yeah, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything there, but yeah, we have a lot more coming up that is very specifically oriented to the school year and also to popular subjects as well. So please be on the lookout for that. And then here's a last one I've got right here. Not related to faculty specifically, but are there plans to add PPR to the MARC records that you provide? I don't know if I can speak to this one from a product basis or how we communicate. That's something I can't speak right now to, but is that something you're aware of, Wendy?
Well, what I am aware of is that our MARC records could improve. I do know that. I have heard that. So we are aware of that. As far as I know, it's not officially on the roadmap, but I also have to say that I'm not necessarily in charge of, you know, that, you know, MARC record specifically. But I do know how important they are, and that they're very helpful, and that they're extremely helpful in discoverability, which is good for everyone. So I don't know the answer, but I will take this question and make sure that the people who are working on this know that that's something that we have customers interested in.
I mean, I do know just from, you know, for meetings we had, MARC records improvement is definitely on the docket. So this is something we're making sure that we improve. More is to come on the way. That's something that we would be delighted to take care of because it's a popular question. So, and then I do have another one that did come through. I think this might be our last one then. What kind of metrics, user data do Kanopy customers have access to? And so I can probably answer some of this, but I don't know if you want to answer this as well, Wendy. But there's a ton of access.
I'll leave this one to you, Josh. I feel like this is more your area than mine.
Yeah, so in order to do that, I'm actually going to go and I'm going to pull up, you won't be able to see my screen, but I'm going to kind of describe what I can see on the admin platform that we do have. We do have a bunch of popular, a host of popular options in our analytics tab. So on top of you know, all the great tools that you have to facilitate faculty requests, we do provide pretty robust data in terms of you know, what your school actually does, what the usage of your school across, you know, different types of departments and classes. And so from a larger macro perspective, you can see in total, you know, the usage per month, the usage per day. You can just see in a handy graph like what that usage looks like and how it looks, and you can break that down by department. You can also break it down by you know, device type, as well as I think I already covered subject matter. And on top of that, you can also cover usage on individual videos. So you can see like the value of a specific video in terms, if you do measure value by you know, minutes watched, or you know, by number of views or plays per video, that is a metric that you can use for your own use. And then also we do have an extensive, you know, an extensive portal that you can run numerous reports from. So you can export them to Excel and then present them to whichever stakeholders you do need to demonstrate that or display those to. So it is an industry-leading usage analysis platform. We get a lot of compliments in terms of all the available information at hand. So if you do want to learn a little bit more about the metric or user data available to customers, I would definitely sign up for a quick demo so you can see everything that's included. Those demos, I've been on them. I actually helped create some of them, but they have just a multitude of information that really makes decision making hopefully a little easier when you're trying to decide what titles to include in your catalog or whatever types of uses you might need for that data. Is there anything you might want to add to that, Wendy? I know you handle things on the content side a lot.
Nope, sounds good, Josh.
All right. So yeah, that was our last question. I think I'm going to hand it back off to Sabrina.
Great. Yeah, I just want to say thanks so much to Wendy and Josh for taking the time to speak with us today. And thank you to our attendees for your engagement. I'd like to remind our viewers that we did record today's program, so be on the lookout for a follow-up email from Choice and ACRL with a link to the recording. Also, if you have a few minutes after the presentation to fill out a brief survey, we would really appreciate it. So thanks again to all of you out there for joining us. We hope you learned something new from the session and hope to see you again in the near future on another webinar.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.